Hello and welcome to another edition of the Hooligan Report. I'm your host as always, SM, and with me tonight I have Cooksen.
Hello.
We have Bojan KantKick,
Hi, guys.
and joining us after a rather out of character win, we have NUFC Tiger.
Get in.
We'll start with you, mate. How did it feel to finally get a win on the board, and especially one of such a magnitude?
Yeah, it was a bit of a surprise actually. As most people probably know, we got destroyed by City last time out. So I think we're sort of down in the dumps a bit, and the talk about if McLaren would make it to Christmas, and the dreaded R word for relegation. So it certainly was a big surprise to see us come out and kick a relatively handy score. Our goal difference has taken a nice, healthy increase, which is always going to probably play a big part later in the season. But just really, really happy to get that first win on the board. So hopefully we'll take that into our next game, which is the one we all want to win. So.
Well, certainly in good form heading into that one. Obviously, the star of the show was, well, I mean, I guess there's probably two that you could talk about in FourNaldum and also Sissoko. Who did you see as man of the match?
Yeah, I was trying to have a think about who I would have given it to. I guess FourNaldum with his 4 goals. It's pretty hard to look past that. But at the same time, Sissoko provided 4 assists, which I guess at the end of the day, an assist is probably just as good as a goal. Doesn't really matter who gets the goal and puts it into the net, but if someone's creating those chances and someone in the team's the recipient of it, it's all good. So.
Well, it's pretty good stats for both of them. I think Vinaldum's only the second player after Shearer to score 4 goals for Newcastle, and Sissoko's the first player since Andy Cole to get 3 assists for the team. So it's certainly rewriting the record books in that sense, and I guess it's the first time in a couple of years. I think that you've scored 6 goals. Doesn't happen too often for most teams, but obviously good to be amongst the goals heading into the derby.
Yeah, exactly right. I guess probably the last 2 years or so, we've probably been on the receiving end of those 6 goal thumpings. So it's sort of nice to be the team sort of dishing them out at the same time. I guess that being said, unfortunately, the Mackems always seem to find another gear when it comes to the derby, which is pain of my existence. And as they've done in recent years, they've recently replaced their manager. So.
I was going to say, it seems to be their strategy. It's just, sack the manager, bring a new one in to win the derby, and rinse and repeat.
Pretty much, as long as the manager pulls something out of his butt at the end of the season and they stay off, I don't think they mind too much. But hopefully Stevie Wonder's up to the challenge, and he'll hopefully get us that elusive win in the derby that we're all craving. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, I hope so. We had another bit of a drought-breaking win for your mobs, Bojan and Cooksen, with United recording a 3-0 win over Everton, and I think that's one of a very rare win for you guys at Goodison Park. How did you guys see this one?
Well, we actually played pretty well. I mean, the team was set up perfectly. Defenders were in defence. We had Herrera and Schneiderlin starting. I mean, they just can run all day. They created havoc for Everton. I mean, Schneiderlin had 50-odd passes, high 50 passes at 90% completion rate or thereabouts. I mean, he was probably our best player, and Herrera was just keeping everything ticking over, scored a wonderful goal. I mean, plenty of space in the box. And Martial was, again, fantastic down the left-hand side. And we can't go past the beast man himself, Chris Smalling.
Bojan?
Is Chris Smalling the best English centre half? Right now? 'Cause I can't see many going past him. I don't think anyone's better than him right now. As in English, not in England, but English.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if someone like a Phil Jagielka or John Stones, so of course he's injured at the moment. But yeah, there wouldn't be too many better than him.
Not best in England, best
Nah,
in the
he's-
world. Best in the world. I mean,
That's his alter ego, Mike.
who's been better than him over the last 12 months?
In the world?
Yeah.
Oh, I could probably think of a
Bailey
few.
Bloom.
And of course, your man Herrera had an alright game.
Oh, mate, he's a gun. He's a gun. I'm not sure. There seems to be a pattern of him going off after about 75 minutes. I'm not sure if he needs to improve his fitness base a bit more and why he hasn't done so to date. But whenever he plays, he's absolutely fantastic. Had the assist, scored a goal, and the goal he scored was beautifully worked down the left-hand side, and Coleman absolutely clattered Marshall. And then Rojo's ball in. And I was actually going to make this point about FourNaldum as well. The ability of a central midfielder to run from deep and get in the box just at the right time. That's a real art form that not many midfielders can do. And Wijnaldum did it twice on the weekend, and Herrera did it in this game too. That run from deep in midfield just to be in the box at the right time, and it was a fantastic goal. Jagielka's basically caused the third goal. And it was good to see Morten Schneiderlin get his first goal for the club. But
Yeah, he's not amongst the goals too often. Even at Southampton.
playing defensive midfield,
Yeah.
he doesn't get forward that much. Although they have been using him at set pieces more since he joined United. He dropped the pie. Van Gaal dropped the pie, so gave him a good kick up the arse, and kind of to rub salt into that wound, he brought on Jesse Lingard instead of him at half time when he took off Juan Mata. So hopefully Depay turns around and actually, head down arse up at training and try and get his spot back. Lastly, David De Gea. You see these results, and United have had a few of them over the last couple of years, like 3-0 away, 3-0 last season against Liverpool as well at home. He's still making one-on-one saves, point-blank range saves. He is fantastic and so important to Manchester United, and will probably go back-to-back Player of the Year for us, and might even, given how even it is, unless Jamie Vardy keeps bloody scoring, he might even be up there for...
And he's even doing it without diving in the box this season. I'm actually amazed that he can manage to score without having to go down for a cheap penalty.
Vardy,
yeah.
He's been good. He's been good. Well, if he keeps this up, he might find his way at United.
Well, I mean, that was the joke last week, and it's probably a perfect segue there to move on to chat about Leicester and Southampton, and that man again, Jamie Vardy, with 2 goals to yet again claw Leicester back from a 2-0 deficit. But he just keeps on scoring, and it's the sort of form where you just can't ignore it, at least in the England setup. But he's 28, 29, so he's probably
28.
little bit too old for a move to a bigger club, you would expect. But
Liverpool,
you never know.
maybe.
Yeah, he'll go to Liverpool like Craig Bellamy. Be good for half a season, and you suddenly realise, oh shit.
Well, in all fairness, I mean, Liverpool's quite low on strikers now if they're down to their 4th choice in Origi, so they could do worse than a Jamie Vardy for a season, or even just the 6 months. Take him on loan.
Klopp would love his pressing style. I saw a stat that he's run more than any other player in the comp so far this season, which is bizarre for a striker.
Yeah.
They usually kind of work their way slowly into space and then have bursts of acceleration. But he's the hardest working player in the league, and he's actually perfect for the Dugan press, whatever you call Klopp's thing. On Leicester Southampton, I think the Tinkerman might be going a little bit overboard with his tinkering, because he's got to play Riyad Mahrez and Dyer from the start, because they were getting belted by Southampton until they brought those 2 on, and they just completely changed the game.
My understanding
I'm not quite
is...
sure why. Do you know why Mahrez isn't starting?
Friar Tuck suggested that Mahrez was quite sore in training from a shoulder injury that kept him out of the last game as well. But did seem to suggest that if Southampton took the lead, that Mahrez would be on pretty quickly, which indeed he was. If he doesn't start next week, I think definitely there might be some sort of weird thing going on there with Ranieri, but my understanding at least is that it's more injury-based than any sort of rotation policy.
Yeah, right. The other thing I noticed from this game is that 3 of the 4 goals were conceded from crosses, and both teams can't defend set pieces at all.
Well, I think Freitag was saying the issues with Leicester are that the Southampton players were just taller than them, with Pelé and what's his name? That's the centre back. It's Van Dijk, Fonte, all quite tall players. So it is an interesting one to see that happening.
I'll let the other guys talk in a sec, but I do have one more point. Virgil van Dijk. The word on him at a Celtic is that he scores a lot of goals from centre half, but he's not actually that great a defender. So just watch out for him the next time you see Southampton play. He's not actually that good as a defender, but he's kind of like Ivanovic last year. The goals cover up the fact he's a hack.
He seems to have a very odd body shape for a
the season
footballer.
progresses.
I turned it on, and I think it was the first time I had a good look at him, and he's a big lump of a man. So he's a bit of an odd shape, but whatever works for him. If he's getting up there and throwing his weight around. Might have just been the standard definition coverage I had. It was just a fuzzy blurb of a blob. We'll move on then and chat about the Liverpool Spurs game, since we've just touched on Klopp, and I'll get NUFC's thoughts on this one first of all. How do you see the appointment of Klopp as manager for Liverpool, and what impact do you think he'll have on their top 4 chances, or just an improvement from the Rodgers style?
I guess the first thing that really comes to mind is I guess if I was a Liverpool supporter, I'd be pretty excited. I guess Klopp's sort of that charismatic type of manager that can sort of, I guess, give whatever club he's associated with that sort of that positive energy, and you get that with basically any new manager. But I guess Klopp's sort of a special case. He's probably one of the more famous characters in football at the moment. As for how I think he'll go with Liverpool, it's probably a bit early to say. I'm not sure if they'll be, capable of getting into that top 4 as the sort of season progresses. I sort of think the top 4 of the usual suspects of City, Chelsea, Man U, and Arsenal probably going to be the ones to end up in those top spots. But I certainly think Klopp potentially is an upgrade on Rodgers. So, I'll be certainly interested to see how he goes.
What are your thoughts, Cooksen?
Well, it was hyped up to be a big game, and it probably disappointed a bit. Klopp coming in should give Liverpool more energy. He's already given him a bit more of a hipster vibe.
It was interesting to see that for the first time this season, Liverpool, or an opposition team, outran Spurs. And I know during the week, JD 2010 was going on a bit about how Spurs have outrun their opponents every week. So it was quite interesting to see that an almost immediate impact from Klopp in terms of style of play, a much more hard-pressing style of play from Liverpool. So it certainly will be interesting to see how that style progresses over the coming weeks.
Yeah. And you just got to look. You go, Brian.
It wouldn't be surprised me if Klopp's trying to use the rest of this. If he's told the owners that he's going to use the rest of the season to see if these players can cope with this, and the players that can't will be gone at the end of the season. Because this is the way he plays. It's the high press, constant pressing, and if they can't do it, I don't think there's much point in thinking that 4th is possible, because he's got no pre-season. They've lost depth players to injury. I suspect he'll be weeding out the players that aren't suitable, like your Martin Skirtle, who was worst on ground by a mile on the weekend, and those players will be gone in the summer.
If they get rid of guys like Skirtle, Lovren, Joe Allen, all that sort of mob. Who do you see them bringing in players in January to sort of fill in the gaps in the meantime, or will those players sort of get to see the season out?
I think that they'll be over. Well, are they going to get Zorc from Dortmund? If they do, I suspect they'll be overhauling the scouting network, and because they're going to be scouting a completely different style of player, I suspect. Someone that's going to have the acceleration and the level of endurance to cope with this tactic.
I mean, because you look at it, and Rodgers, he really just signed random players. He had no thought about it whatsoever. I mean, he spent, 300 million?
Yeah.
And which Rodgers signing succeeded to about 2. I mean, Coutinho and Sturridge.
And it's amazing when you have those sorts of managers taking that scattergun approach to transfers. And so soon after Spurs made the same mistake with the Bale money, that I think did Liverpool specifically come out and actually say we're not going to do a Spurs and just go out and buy a bunch of players, and then they did exactly that.
Yeah, it was Rodgers who said that, I think.
When you spend 100 million, you should be challenging for the league. That's what he said.
Yeah.
Those sorts of comments will always come back and bite the managers.
Yeah, I mean,
He still showed good character.
Yeah. The issue is they still need to get better quality players. I mean, honestly, there's been talk about Henderson. But would Henderson get inside any of the top 4 teams?
Probably not. He'd probably get a go at Arsenal, I reckon.
But Arsenal play a bit different possession.
Yeah.
More faster, requires brains.
He'd have to play a lot deeper and basically take the Coquelin role, which may not suit his game as much.
But he couldn't get. You got Carrick, Schweinsteiger, Schneiderlin, Herrera.
Do you think he'd push out Drinkwater from Leicester?
I'd give him a run for his money, I suppose.
Henderson really just sums up the Liverpool thing. Is like tries very best, good player, but he's lacking that extra 10% of quality, and that's what Klopp needs to probably bring to Liverpool: the extra quality needed to become a great team.
It will certainly be interesting to see if they do anything in January, given the amount of long-term injuries they've now been suffering in the last few days, really. But we'll move on and chat about one of the games down the bottom of the table between two teams that are probably battling it out for a relegation spot. And Chelsea just managed to come out on top against Villa in a 2-0 win at the Bridge, which is great for their survival chances. And I think Own Goals, who's now leading their goal scoring tally, managed to bag another one for them.
Well,
sorry, yeah.
It's conceivable that Own Goals will be the highest scorer in every team on this planet.
Yeah, I think I saw your comment about that in the international thread, and that's probably a pretty valid observation. Do we see Chelsea sort of turning a corner now that Ivanovic has gone and got himself injured, and they've actually had to bring in a decent player to cover for him?
People don't like to wish injuries on anyone. I'm sure we speak a lot about it, but I'm pretty sure every Chelsea supporter was secretly very happy. And
the supporters of every other club were secretly, or not so secretly, gutted.
Yeah.
NUFC. Sorry, I was just going to ask NUFC how he saw this one, since it's down his end of the table, I guess. At the moment. Sorry, don't mean to cause offence.
Oh, no, that's all right. I certainly keep a lookout on the teams that are floating around near us, just to see how the relegation battle's shaping up. But I only saw the highlights of this game, but from what I sort of read, it sounded like it was a fairly, standard win for Chelsea. I guess it helped with own goals contribution, which is certainly, I think Arsenal was benefiting from his services earlier in the season as well. But no, I think, obviously Chelsea have got a lot of quality in their squad, and I guess the sort of off-field controversy with Mourinho and the things that maybe were a bit of a distraction to their team, possibly might have played a factor in them having a bit of a hangover from last season, I guess. But I can sort of suspect they'll break away from the relegation pack and maybe start pushing into that mid-table bracket. So
They might be able to consolidate mid-table, you mean? Jeez, that'd be a good season for them.
yeah, well, it's an upward trajectory, so you've got to be happy with that, I suppose. So it'll be interesting to see how they go.
Actually, there's a rumor going around about the Eva Canario thing.
Yeah.
Apparently, Mourinho's wanted. He didn't want. Who did Chelsea sign? They got Falcao and someone else, right?
Baba Rahman.
No, just wait. Give me one moment.
That French person.
Oh,
No,
yeah,
no. Apparently, yeah. He didn't want to sign Falcao, and he wanted a midfielder. Because the reason why he's telling Fabregas is shit, and he's also saying that Matic is shit.
well, apparently he's had a big falling out with Hazard before the season started as well.
Yeah,
My mail. Yeah.
but the rumor is though that Eva Canario was on the transfer committee side, or was really tight with someone who's in charge that Mariana Granny Shagger or whatever. Yeah, apparently she's Roman's Abramovich's person at the football club,
Right.
Jesus.
and she was withholding funds from Mourinho to upgrade the team, and Mourinho got pissed off, so he's pretty much sacked Eva because Eva was again more on the Abramovich side, and
This sounds
Yeah,
like it's coming straight from Faith.
it's surprisingly not. It's actually come from a better source than Faith.
Right, okay.
But yeah, that's apparently it. It's Mourinho's trying to create a power play between himself and half the people at the club.
Jeez. It's an interesting one with Chelsea. They're a bit of an interesting story at the moment, but the other side of the coin is Aston Villa, who are struggling pretty hard under Sherwood, and I think he actually came out this week and said that he's bored by Villa. So I don't know what that says about the fans. I mean, when your own manager's kind of falling asleep at games, but 4 points from safety. Them and Sunderland are looking pretty bleak. Newcastle obviously picking up the wins kind of helped them close the gap with Bournemouth, but do we see Sherwood sticking around for much longer?
How does he got a job in the first place? That's my question. I mean, he's just not a good manager. Just sack him, get someone decent in.
I'm not so sure. I mean, in this game, they had some chances, and Chelsea it was very unconvincing from them, and they weren't great defensively. The only chances Chelsea had came from stuff-ups by Villa. Like that second goal, where the keeper fired a bullet pass to that defender, and he had nowhere to go because there was Costa was basically goal hanging, and then Willian pinched it and just tossed it in for him. Then there was the own goal, another defensive mistake. So I don't think we can really blame tactics for that. But the mail is that Moyes will be coming home. To Villa,
To Villa, right?
Moyes are.
Okay. Well, I mean that would make sense because he's struggling a bit with Sociedad.
Yeah, one of the Sociedad players apparently yelled at him, said, "Moyes, go home."
Yeah, I heard that.
But I'm quite happy that I've expelled all memory of him managing my club.
Oh dear.
It's a bad dream I'd never want to wake up from.
The other big result from the weekend was Man City thumping Bournemouth 5-1 and Sterling bagging his first senior hat-trick, which I'm sure Liverpool supporters would have been very happy to watch as he celebrated in Sky Blue. But Bonnie also had a great game for City, kind of stepping up in the absence of Aguero. So it's probably great signs for City supporters that even though Aguero's only 3 or so weeks away, that they have a pretty ready-made replacement for him.
But again, it's you talk about Sterling, we talk about Bernie, but De Bruyne again just controlled the game. He was very good.
And it's amazing that someone like Navas can end up with 2 assists after his attempt at scoring. We tried his hardest not to score from an open goal, and I'm sure he'll claim, "Nah, I was just being selfless, passing off to Sterling to give him the hat trick. I was holding up play till he got there, cutting back inside after an open goal to wait for the keeper to get back, So he was pretty lucky it ended up being a goal. But the other main player who was in the spotlight after a few stuff-ups from that game is Federici. Sorry, did you want to talk about Navas first?
I'm just saying that he's a donkey. He had a right proper shot
He's a
over
very
game.
fast donkey.
He's a very fast donkey, but he has a few issues, yeah.
Did anyone see the Stonewall obvious penalty that Otamendi should have given away before City scored their first goal?
I might have missed it. I think I missed the start of the game.
Well, Glenn Murray basically got tackled from behind. Otamendi didn't get the ball, brought him to ground, and then handballed it. It was very early on in the game, and then City basically broke and goal, and then I'm not saying it would have changed anything, but it was kind of like, come on. I'm sure it'll be fine, and these foreigners who come to the league some time and the benefit of the doubt, but he hasn't looked too flash so far.
Yeah.
And for a team that, a fairly dominant defence often looks a bit susceptible.
Well, it'll be interesting because I think Company was meant to be due back this game, but for one reason or another had to settle for a spot on the bench, I think he was. So hopefully he's back in the next week or so for City fans to kind of shore up that defence. But when you've got a right back playing at left back in Sanya, the defence is always going to be a bit iffy, I think.
Yeah.
And then Arsenal got a pretty routine victory over Watford, winning 3-0. Sanchez amongst the goals again. Credit where it's due to Watford, though. I think there was a stat a few weeks ago, I don't know if it still holds true, that they hadn't conceded a single goal in the first half. And I noticed Arsenal only scored the first goal in the 60th minute, so it may well still be an accurate stat. But you mentioned them before the season started, Bojan as a side likely to stay up, but they're certainly doing quite well for themselves.
They got some good players there. They do, and they play reasonable football. I saw a couple of things from this game. Arsenal's first goal came after Chapue, I think so. One of their better players got fouled right on the edge of the box. It wasn't a penalty, but it was definitely a foul. The ref basically bottled it. All of Watford's players switched off, and Arsenal went straight down the other end and scored to make it 1-0. And Petr Cech handballed that outside the box, didn't he? That's not just my eyes.
Yeah.
That was definitely a handball.
Well, it looked like it, yeah.
So I'm not quite sure what's going on there with the ref for that one.
And I hate to bring it up, but it's giving me a few flashbacks from last season where you see, for instance, for Hull, we had a few incidents like that go against us early in the season, and I sat there after the final day bemoaning the fact that, you have a few decisions like that go against you, costing you results, and you wait for the swings and roundabouts, and they never come for the small teams. So it can be pretty rough to be on the end of those, and as you were just mentioning, the lack of a penalty call for Bournemouth and that incident for Watford, more often than not, it does seem to involve the smaller clubs. And I think Mumba would be very quick to deny that. I remember there being a few discussions on the board surrounding that, but the evidence doesn't seem to lie in this case.
Oh, well, I mean, it could just be coincidence. There's naturally, I think, a rub of the green or benefit of the doubt goes to the big team or the popular team at the time. But, the swings and roundabouts thing, it's easy for the people who get the benefit of the decision to make that call.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll move on then, and there's news only broke tonight of Leeds sacking their manager, and I thought I'd bring this up just for the pure fact that Leeds' owner has been in charge for 2 years and is already on to his 6th manager. So what do you guys make of that? And I suppose Newcastle's probably a pretty comparable club in the sense that there's a bit of an eccentric owner there the fans aren't too happy with, and there's been a bit of a switching around of managers a little bit lately. What's the story with Leeds, and how can they they're a big club, they should be doing a lot better than they are. How do you guys see Leeds sort of picking themselves up?
Well, you can't really expect the manager to change things around in 12 games. I mean,
there was a post on the board from someone saying, shock horror, manager performing poorly gets sacked. But I think it's a bit of a cop-out to say that he should be sacked because he's been performing poorly after 12 games.
Yeah, it's pretty harsh.
I mean, I think he'd only lost them about 3 or 4 games. They had a bunch of draws, but they weren't performing too poorly.
Again, probably it's just one of those sliding doors things. A bit of luck goes the manager's way. He's still in the job, but again, there's just some managers or some chairmen are just too quick to sack, and others really should need a quick sacking. But the idea is to find the right one.
Do you guys see any hope that Leeds can sort of pick themselves back up, maybe get a new owner? I know there was talk of Russell Crowe very briefly was being called in by some supporters on Twitter who wanted anyone but the current owner to take charge. Do you see, in all seriousness, anyone actually managing to save that club and bring them back up? Because they're a big club that probably deserves to be in the Premier League.
I think they sold most of their assets to pay off their debts. I don't think there's much left, to be honest. And you're going to need to extract the current owner, similar to is it the Oystons with Blackpool. You don't need to really force these guys out, and it's up to the FA to really drive that, to force these guys out if you want these clubs to turn around. Yeah,
well, I mean, personally, I enjoy hating Leeds, but I'd rather have a competitive Leeds than one that seems to be on a downwards trajectory. So hopefully that can all pick up there. But we'll move on now and chat about the next set of fixtures coming up. Well, first we might actually touch on the Champions League games midweek. Who've United got?
CSKA Moscow in Moscow.
Chances in that one should be pretty comfortable favourites, or do you see it being more of a tough test?
It'll be a tough game because, again, you're flying over to Moscow midweek, and that's never a pleasant experience, especially when it's a bit cold. But we need to play the right team and just try to hit them on the counter. Just have a typical away game, just win 2-0, 3-0.
Given the game on the weekend that you guys will be coming up against Man City, do you think it'll be a heavily rotated side that you take over?
Play Memphis. He's the Champions League specialist.
Yep.
Play him on the left-hand side. No, I don't think Van Gaal doesn't do much of a rotation from what I've seen. If he did, we'd have had a James Wilson side in by now. So I'd expect it to be a relatively strong team. If they get the 3 points here, it'll go a long way towards automatic qualification and top spot. Is it on that stupid synthetic pitch? I think it might be over there. I'm not sure if it's them or Spartak that play on that. So they want to be a little bit careful, but I think it won't be I don't think we'll see Schweinsteiger out there, but it'll be a fairly strong United team. Hopefully he gives Marshall a rest. Yeah,
he's been playing a fair bit lately, so hopefully he gets a bit of a rest. Arsenal are up against Bayern Munich, and I think Bayern Munich supporters are planning a protest where they don't watch the first 5 minutes of the game, but if they do that, they might miss 3 or 4 goals.
Lewandowski.
Exactly. Got to see if he can break his record. Go 6-10.
Arsenal are gonna get smashed.
Yeah.
We know what's gonna happen. I mean, just again, Bayern Munich have too much quality around the park.
Well, it's funny because Arsenal always somehow seem to make the knockout stage, and they always do it by getting a quite strange result in the group stage after struggling a bit. I think they did it a few years ago against, might even have been Bayern Munich, I'm not sure. They're in a group with someone and they managed to get quite a decent upset result.
Yeah, but Arsenal
Could be
always
quite
seem to
tough,
lose
yeah.
to German teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They embody the French in that way.
No, French lose to German armies.
Chelsea have Dynamo Kiev, so they're another side travelling over to the eastern parts of Europe. Do we see them winning that one? They seem to have had quite a decent start to the Champions League.
They probably should, but again, trips to away games in Europe tend to be pretty hard when you go a long distance. So again, it depends on what Mourinho does. I mean, you'd expect them to win.
Yeah. So Man City's got Sevilla, but probably the only other big game worth discussing is the El Clasico between PSG and Real Madrid, which could be quite an interesting game. Do we see any chance for PSG to snatch the win in that one?
They're a chance, but you'd expect Real Madrid to just dominate them.
I suppose on that topic we should mention Ronaldo's overtaken Raul as the leading Real Madrid goal scorer, I believe.
Yeah, apparently he can not score in a single game till about 2021 and still have a better goals per games ratio.
Than Raul.
Yeah, because he's played 300 games for Real Madrid. I think I've missed the stat, but Raul played about 700 to get the goals that he's got. So I mean, say what you want about Ronaldo, but his goal scoring exploits are pretty impressive.
It's a pretty pathetic lead defensively once you get down to the bottom half of the table. It's still a fantastic achievement, but it wouldn't be the same in the Premier League. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
It'd be at least a goal a day, not a goal and a half a day.
Any chance that Rooney's going to march on and break Shearer's record now that he's joined second?
No chance.
He's what, about 70 behind, I think?
70 goals off.
So I think he's lucky if he'll have about 7 goals left in him in total.
Zone goal.
Sorry?
Where's zone goal?
They've got to be up there.
100 a year. Joint top scorer for England as well this year.
They were up there for United a few years ago once, wasn't it? I think I remember a season where United had quite a lot of own goals. For them, obviously, not against them.
I think it was. I know we won a title in that year. I think it was
yeah.
2010 or 11 or 2008 9.
I think it was quite recent, yeah, where there's a significant amount of own goals in your favour.
And Scousers were melting and chanting conspiracies.
Yeah, I think that would have been 08-09. I think I remember that year very fondly.
Is that the beach ball?
I don't think it was that. Was it that year?
Yeah,
Maybe.
it was that.
Was that
I think
earlier?
it was.
No,
it was that
because
year.
they only lost 2 games that year, so I think it would have been maybe a bit later than 08-09.
The year after.
All I know is that Mr. Steve Bruce was in charge of Sunderland that day, and it was a very enjoyable performance from Sunderland, I must say. Speaking of Sunderland, we might chat now about the upcoming games in the Premier League, and we've got the Tyne Weir Derby, which of course makes it perfect timing to have NUFC on the podcast. How do you see this one? Do you think you can finally get the win over the noisy neighbours?
I guess the last few clashes haven't installed a lot of confidence in me. I don't know what it is about the bloody Mackems, but they don't do anything for the season. And as soon as the derby comes around, they just, they think they're Barcelona or something. They just pull something from nowhere. Maybe it's just the case of our players just not capturing the spirit of the derby. I'm not too sure, but I'll be happy not to lose the derby. I'll just say that.
And
I
happy
think
not to concede a screamer, I suppose, because they seem to score those pretty regularly against you as well.
Yeah, it's quite frustrating when you see their their season highlights that are about a minute in length, and half the goals are against us. It's quite it's painful to swallow.
Believe you me, watching the getting invested in the relegation race in the run-in at the end of last season and watching them beat Everton, courtesy of 2 own goals, was one of the more frustrating matches I've ever watched. They pull some results out of nowhere, at pretty much any time. I mean, they broke Mourinho's streak of never losing at Stamford Bridge to stay up the season before that. It's just I don't know what they've done. I mean, their nickname's the Black Cats, but they certainly haven't killed any recently, so they've got a fair bit of luck on their side. We've got another fair derby to talk about as well in the Mancunian derby, United up against City. It's going to be a pretty interesting game. I mean, winner of that game goes top. Rate yourselves pretty highly, guys?
It honestly depends on what the team will be for us, which sounds very odd. But if we play the same team versus Everton, I reckon we win because our midfield will romp all over Fernandinho and Yaya, because Yaya will not do any defensive running whatsoever.
Do you guys see Herrera getting another start?
Yes.
He has to start. But I think this has got Juan Mata's name all over it. And he's going to pop up, the smiling assassin he is, and at the double, 2-0.
Who do you see? Who do you see as the most dangerous player, I suppose, in the City lineup that you have to contain? Is it someone like Sterling, given the amount of goals he's scored against Bournemouth, or is it more someone like De Bruyne, who's clearly pulling the strings in midfield?
De Bruyne.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty obvious one. I just wanted to see how you guys saw it.
But we have De Gea and Mike Smalling.
It'd be interesting to see if Van Gaal uses the same tactic that he used against Everton, where he really played Marshall out in the left wing because he can play there, and because Seamus Coleman has been tearing United a new one for about 5 years, and Coleman basically spent the whole game trying to track Marshall. He was too scared of Marshall going forward. He couldn't get forward, so he might chuck Marshall out on that left-hand side just to make De Bruyne accountable. So he's not just going forward all game and hurting us. So, it'll be interesting.
Coleman was probably just still hungover from beating Germany in the international break. He's got to cut him a bit of slack. Yeah.
Do you think he was giving Schweinsteiger some crap?
Well, I'm sure Schweinsteiger can cry into his World Cup winning medal.
Probably.
Other games of interest, I suppose. We've got Arsenal up against Everton at home. And I think I've mentioned a few weeks ago, Everton's had quite a tough start to the season. And I think after this game against Arsenal, it'll lighten up a bit for them. It's an interesting one because I think, like United, Everton have quite a decent record against Arsenal. So it could be quite an interesting game. I think I remember a few years ago when Martinez had them performing quite well. Coleman, the man in question, was pulling tricks out of his ass to sort of run rings around the Arsenal players. So it could be an interesting match. How do you guys see this one?
You expect Arsenal to win. I mean, if Arsenal's midfield plays as well as they did, theoretically they should tear Everton a new one, just like they did to us.
I can see a high-scoring draw. Ross Barkley at some stage soon is going to explode onto the scene.
He
And
was coming very
really,
close against you guys.
yeah, there was that kind of free kick to the far post. He got the ball to dip about 2 meters in about half a second. It was strange to watch. So, yeah, he's on the precipice of really coming out as an elite player in the comp. So I see a 2-2 draw in this game. I don't think Gareth Barry's going to be able to do enough work against Ozil and Sanchez and Walcott's to prevent Arsenal from scoring.
In a game that not many would have expected to feature sides at the top of the table, we've got Leicester up against Crystal Palace in 5th against 6th. Quite bizarrely, I mean, if one of those sides wins, they'll feasibly be nestled inside the top 4, given one of City and United have to lose or drop points at least in their derby. Leicester, they've only lost one game for the season against Arsenal, and I think they've actually recovered the most points of any side in the Premier League from a losing position. Does their run have to stop at some point, or is the momentum just sort of keeping them going?
Well, we did say the same about Sunderland last year, did we not?
Sunderland?
What?
I mean,
Southampton.
Southampton, sorry, yeah.
Must have blinked and missed the surge in Sunderland form. Yeah. No, that's true. We did say about the same about Southampton. The interesting distinction I'd make about Leicester is, I think Jats or Freitag was making the point. I mean, you've got guys like Fuchs and Kante who are not regularly getting starts for their side, and Kramaric and Ujoa and so on. So they do seem to have quite a decent amount of depth. Whether it's good enough to keep them up that end of the table, time will tell, I suppose.
Yeah, because usually they hit January and fixtures start building up, and all those sides, they think, oh yeah, they're going to make a run for top 4 and all that. They usually just go to complete and utter crap in that 2-month period. And that's probably the big difference. I mean, the depth between top 4 sides and mid-table sides is quite huge.
Well, I'll tell you what, just to do them a favour, we've got them in the League Cup next week, which we'll chat about a bit more on the next podcast. But just to do them a favour, we'll knock them out of that one to lighten up their fixture load. And probably the last game worth discussing is Liverpool against Liverpool Light in Southampton in the final game of the round. A decent chance for Klopp to get a first win under his belt at home. Do we see them getting across the line?
I think they're going to be a 1-1 draw.
Liverpool are going to struggle to score without their main forwards.
What did we make of Origi? What did we make of him on his league debut? That good was he?
He shows flashes. But unfortunately, because he hasn't been out there enough, he's been kind of rotting on the pine for the last 9 weeks, and he had a bit of a stinker last year and kind of struggled with a lot of expectation on his shoulders and not much around him. But yeah, he showed flashes, but he's not the complete finished article, and they need that right now.
Well, it is a big blow for them with Sturridge, Benteke and Ings all out at the moment. Is Benteke due back soon? I don't know how serious that injury was.
No idea.
No idea?
No idea.
Be interesting. Okay. We'll run through then quickly, and we'll get a score prediction from each of you for each game. We've got Villa against Swansea in the first game, so we'll run through NUFC, then Cooksen, then Bojan.
All right. I suspect Swansea will get up maybe 2-1.
Cooksen?
2-0 to Swansea.
It's the battle of the
Gomez and Andre Ayew.
Well, I was going to say it's the battle of the Ayew brothers. So I might say 2-1 to Swansea with both Ayew scoring and maybe Gomez finally getting one to break that duck. Or the drought, I suppose. Leicester against Crystal Palace.
I'll go maybe a 1-0 to Leicester.
2-0 Leicester.
2-1 Leicester. Dwight Gale's being sent off on the weekend. He'll be missing, and that'll be a loss for him.
Palace are pretty good away from home, so I might go a 1-1 draw. Leicester have been drawing a few games lately, so it'll be an interesting one, that's for sure. Norwich up against West Brom.
Ooh. 0 or draw. Humanity to lose.
I might go 2-2, that one.
Is this one Norwich West Ham, did you say?
Norwich West Brom.
Oh, West Brom. Oh, God. 1-0 Norwich. In a terrible game. Don't watch it.
Well, next up is Stoke against Watford, and given Watford's defensive displays lately, maybe this one will be pretty low scoring as well.
I'm going to go 2-2-0.
I'll go 2-1 to Stoke Alona, I think.
1-1. Jack Butland saving their asses again. I think Watford will be all over them. They'll sneak a lucky goal, and Jack Butland will be man of the match by a mile.
After a win to wet their sails, I think Chelsea might come crashing back down to earth with their next opponents in West Ham. How do we see that one?
West Ham winning 2-0. West Ham have been pretty good form, and Chelsea have been the complete opposite of pretty good form. So
Yeah, I'll probably go 1-0 to West Ham, actually, I think. 'Cause didn't Chelsea have a tough midweek game in the Champions League as well? But were they travelling to Russia, was it?
Yeah.
Ukraine.
Oh,
Ukraine, yeah.
Yep.
All right. 3-1 West Ham. Dimitri Payet to make Fabregas his bitch.
Yeah, I'm liking Payet scoring in this one, and it's not too crazy to suggest West Ham will win that. After all, they've had wins against Arsenal and City and also Liverpool. So if you can still call Chelsea a big team, I mean, they're doing pretty well against the big clubs. So I might go 2-0 to West Ham. Arsenal against Everton.
Arsenal 3-0.
Sort of got the feeling that it's the kind of game that Arsenal are going to not lose, but they'll drop points. I got a feeling that Everton might want to bounce back after this week or past weekend's results. I might go 1-1.
2-2. Good game to watch.
Yeah, I might go with 2-2 as well. I think that one would be quite an entertaining one. The big one, we've got the Tyne-Wear Derby. What's your score prediction for that one, NUFC?
I think FourNaldum will go to town on the Mackems. Maybe Ginger Perlo to score in injury time just to make it a nice 5-0 rout. Realistically, though, I'll probably go 2-2.
3-0 Newcastle.
Alexander Mitrovic to make himself a hero. 1-0, 90th minute winner for Newcastle.
Oh, surely it's on the cards for him to get a red card, the way he's been going.
Oh, he can still... No, well, he'll take his shirt off and jump in the stands and get sent off.
And headbutt a Mackham supporter as well. I might go 2-1 to Newcastle. Yeah, a late goal to win it for them from FourNaldum perhaps. He's looking pretty good. Bournemouth up against Spurs.
2-0 to Spurs.
Yeah, I'll go 2-0 as well to Spurs.
2-2. Even without Callum Wilson in the side, I really liked Glenn Murray on the weekend against City, and I think they've got enough just to pinch something. Spurs aren't fluid going forward. Harry Kane, he needs a goal like nobody's business. He needs anything at the moment.
I'm glad that you've noticed Glenn Murray, Bojan, and I'm hopeful that you've noticed that he was not playing in. He was not playing in the championship last year. I think Spurs will win this one, but it might be something like 2-1 or 1-0. I think Bournemouth. I mean, they got taken to town against City, but City are in pretty ferocious form at the moment. But Bournemouth aren't travelling too poorly, and I think Eddie Howe's actually just signed a new deal for them as well, so that's great to see. So yeah, I think Spurs in a close one. The Manchester Derby boys.
2-0 United.
3-1 United. I won that a double and Mike set the goal.
Go 2-0 to City, I think.
Yeah. Oh dear. After they tipped Newcastle to beat Sunderland, look what you do to them.
So rude.
I'm gonna have to go against the grain as well. I might go 3-1 to Man City. I think they're looking very free flowing at the moment and very hard to stop. I think
But their midfield is weak.
Their midfield is weak. They've got De Bruyne sitting in there. I guess Navas will miss a few sitters.
Who's going to track back?
Fernandinho, maybe?
Also, one against the combined might of Schneiderlin, Schweinsteiger, Herrera.
Crabs.
Right.
Oh, De Bruyne's going to...
playing this week. Can we do the Halford?
Oh, mate. 1-1 draw with Sheffield Wednesday. Don't get me started. And then Liverpool, Southampton.
I reckon Southampton A will win this game 1-0. Southampton B to be disappointed under hipster German once again.
Southampton B.
He's overrated with Klopp now. He could have been nice, could have been a good bloke, but no. Joined Liverpool, overrated. He only won his titles when Bayern were in transition.
NUFC?
Oh, I'll go 1-1 draw.
I'm going to go for 2-2. I think Graziano Pele is going to destroy Martin Skrtel.
Or Lovren.
I think 2-1 to Liverpool. I think they'll just have the edge to edge out Klopp's first game in front of the Kop. So, I mean, it'll certainly be an interesting game to tune in for. Hopefully it's a good atmosphere at Anfield for once. Hopefully we'll be actually able to hear a bit of chanting. And just in a quick roundup, since you asked for it, Bojan, Brighton remain the only undefeated side in England, so that's a bit of an interesting streak to watch out for. They're stretching their lead in the Championship. They're now on 25 points, whilst second placed Borough are only on 22 points, I believe. I'll just pull that up. And Hull have dropped out of the top 6 for the first time this season. So, looking a bit iffy for Steve Bruce. Yeah, so actually it's Reading on 21 points. But there's a bit of a logjam with Reading, Middlesbrough, Birmingham and Burnley all on 21 points. In fairness, we're only on 19 points, so it's not as if we're that far off second, but dropping points to Sheffield Wednesday, probably not the way to go. But Abel Hernandez,
Who are you playing this week?
we've got Ipswich midweek during the Champions League fixtures, and they're sitting in 10th place, so only 3 points behind us. And then I think we've got Birmingham on the weekend, and they're obviously 2 points ahead of us at the moment. So a couple of big games for us, both at home. And as I've been saying to Friar Tuck in the League Cup thread, if we can get through those 2 games undefeated, when Leicester come to the KC, it'll be the undefeated away side against the undefeated home side. So could make for quite a good League Cup game. But Hernandez actually has 6 goals in 8 games for us after missing the first 3 games with a suspension for sack-whacking Phil Jones on the last day of the season. So he's turned into a bit of a prolific goal scorer for us, so hopefully he can keep that up. Any closing thoughts, boys?
Yeah, Ipswich are going to win 5-0 this weekend.
Oh, dear.
Mike Smalling's pockets are becoming too big, man.
Where's this come from? Why is he Mike Smalling?
Because Van Gaal in pre-season, instead of when Chris Smalling was right next to him, he said his name is Mike Smalling.
Oh, dear. Any closing thoughts in UFC? Good to get a win?
Nothing really from me. Just that hopefully this time next week we'll be toasting a belated Toon victory in the derby. So
Yep, hopefully there's a couple of derby wins for your boys, even though you are terrible sports in wishing Hull good luck. Anyway, thank you for coming on, boys.
No worries.
my pleasure.
No worries, mate.
And thank you all for listening in. We'll be back same time next week. Until then, I hope your side gets a win, especially if you support Man City. And then until next.
So why would you want North Melbourne to win, though? Adelaide.
Why would I want them to win?
Where's this going right now?
Where's this going, Cooksen?
Because Roomba and...
Oh, right.
Is that
Yeah.
support-
Yeah. I'm with you now. I'm with you now.
Yep.
Yeah. Got there in the end. Anyway, thank you all for listening in. It's been a bit of an extended recording tonight. Until next week, we'll see you on the forums.